In the previous recording, Retzuat Goshen, the Goshen strip, the extended shiur, we tried to go through what was the land of Goshen, that place in Mitzrayim where Yaakov and the family, 70 neshamot, came down to and then turned into Bnei Israel, turned into a whole nation. What was special about that place that they were so careful to make sure that Paro gave them, that Yosef, that Yehuda, Yaakov, everybody wanted to make sure we had to be in Goshen. And we spoke about Goshen, both from a geographic location, but more specifically from a spiritual location, bringing down midrashim that related back to Sarah Imenu and Avram Avinu and the Kedushah, the tzniut of Sarah Imenu. And we spoke about different midrashim that bring the Kedushah of Eretz Yisrael to Goshen. Now, I realized, though, that the shiur turned out to be pretty long, and therefore I thought, okay, let's send an abridged version, which is the last idea from that Dvar Torah, which is what the whole shiur is named after, because it was a big chidush that I saw this year, and I felt that for those that don't have the time to listen to the full one, listen to the whole class, a lot of great stuff in there, but for those who don't have that amount of time, I couldn't hold back this Dvar Torah. So I want to quote to you right now the Siftei HaKohen on the parasha. This is back on Parasha Vayigash, when we first being introduced to Goshen. Says the Siftei HaKohen, this is the Mekubal on the Torah. He starts asking, okay, what's so special about this Goshen? What are these midrashim that the Kedushah of Eretz Yisrael is there? Okay, so we had mentioned in the previous recording that when you opened up Sefer Yehoshua, we find a pasuk where Yehoshua speaks about Goshen when he's conquering the land of Israel. He actually speaks about a land, the pasuk actually speaks about that he conquered Kol Haaretz Azot Vet Kol Eretz HaGoshen. It spoke about conquering Eretz HaGoshen, the land of Goshen. And the Radak on Yehoshua says it can't be the same Goshen. We have to have our Goshen in Eretz Yisrael, and we have to have our Goshen in Mitzrayim. There might be two Goshens in Israel, we mentioned, but we have ourselves Eretz Goshen in Mitzrayim, and we have Eretz HaGoshen in the land of Israel, and that's the Radak says it's not the same thing according to the simple pshat, but he says, but midrashically, the midrash does connect the two and says that a little bit of the land of Eretz Yisrael, where he says that the Goshen in Mitzrayim is nivlet, it was swallowed up betoch arei Yisrael, in the lands of Eretz Yisrael. So whatever that means midrashically, but the Kedushah of Eretz Yisrael is actually in Goshen, and that's what we spoke about at length in the previous recording. Comes along the Siftei HaKohen and in ingenious, massive chidush, he puts the pshat of the Radak together with the midrash of the Radak, where he's saying that there was this Eretz HaGoshen in Israel, and it's really the shach that picks up on what is HaGoshen with the hay, as opposed to regular Goshen. Does the hay actually mean something? So he says, yeah, it does mean something, because he says HaGoshen is the land of Israel, as we see in Yehoshua. Eretz Goshen is regular Mitzrayim. It's regular, simple Mitzrayim. That is Eretz Goshen. But he says, if you look at our psukim, at certain points, especially when Yaakov gets there, it says he gets to Goshna. He gets to Goshen. Goshna means to Goshen, like Le Goshen is Goshna. He gets to Goshen. But he says, oh, look, interesting. The hay was added back to Goshen. So we had Ha-Goshen in Israel, and we had Goshna in Mitzrayim. So he actually says, if you look closer, he says, mystically, there was Eretz Goshen and there were Goshna, and they weren't exactly the same place. Or they might have been in the same place, but some kind of Kedushah, like we mentioned, was swallowed up in Mitzrayim. What does that mean? So he explains as follows. He uses this language of a Retzuat, of a strip of land. He says that a strip of land, a Retzuah from Eretz Yisrael, was moved to Mitzrayim. He says either it happened that it followed Yaakov around, that as Yaakov was traveling to Mitzrayim, we have ourselves this Retzuah, this strip of Kedushah of Eretz Yisrael, a strip of land comes to Mitzrayim, and it's actually the strip of Ha-Goshen of Israel, it becomes Goshna in Goshen. So the area of Goshna, that's where Yaakov was, that's the hay of Israel. Wherever he went, it went with him. Or he says maybe that might also explain maybe why Yehuda was sent first. Maybe Yehuda was sent to set up Goshna, to set up in the land of Eretz Goshen, set up the Goshna, set up the Kedushah of Eretz Yisrael, bring this Retzuah, bring this strip of Kedushah of Eretz Yisrael. And it's not just physical land, he says it's the Avir as well. He says the Avir of Eretz Yisrael goes there, but he says it's very small. It's not everybody could be there. That specific area, he writes, not everybody could fit over there. Ki im Yaakov levad, and it's only Yaakov that could fit in this little piece of land, this little Retzuah of Kedusha that followed him from Israel. And then he goes on, and as he continues to speak a little bit more, he writes as well that Im ken Yaakov Avinu alav shalom. If this is all true, what I'm saying, Yaakov Avinu alav shalom lo nichnas ba'avir chutz la'aretz. He never left the air of Eretz Yisrael. He never entered the air of chutz la'aretz. Kedei shelo litama ba'avira shel Eretz Amim, because he didn't want to ever become tameh in the air of the Eretz Amim of the diaspora. He only wanted to be in the kedusha. So says the Shach, El haytar Retzuat shel Eretz Yisrael. Rather, the strip of land from Eretz Yisrael mitkapelet, it would fold over the holechet lefanav and go in front of him, vehu betocha, and Yaakov would always be inside of it. And that's what the Retzuat of Goshen is. The Goshen strip is the strip of land that comes from Ha-Goshen of Eretz Yisrael and followed Yaakov Goshna, said he would only be in the kedusha. And he even closes off that says, and then Yaakov eventually would be buried. When Yaakov would be buried in the land of Israel, he had to ask his kids, please bury me in Israel. I know that the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael came with me, but I want to be buried next to my fathers. Do a chesed for me and bring me to Ma'at Machpelah, which is even a holier spot of Israel, even though I had this Retzuat of Eretz Yisrael with me here in Goshen, but please take me back to Israel so I could be buried next to Avraham and Yitzchak in Ma'at Machpelah. Okay, so that is the Shach, really big chidush, that a Retzuat followed the Jewish people. Okay. Then I saw in a different sefer. This is the sefer called Bini Bechori Yisrael from Avram Kluger. He takes this shach and he says, oh, I'm going to take this shach. He takes it to the next level, even bigger, more wild chidush. Because he says, V'chen lahefech. And so too the opposite. If we spoke about a Retzuat of Kedusha from Eretz Yisrael that followed us to Mitzrayim, he says the opposite sadly is true as well. He says, B'makom tfilatam shel Yishmaelim b'har habayit yeshna Retzuat shel hefech HaKedusha v'aleya hem shochnim. And he writes that on Har Habayit, he's bothered with the question, how could it be that on the holiest site in Judaism, the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies, up on the Temple Mount, on the Har Habayit, how could it be that not only was it destroyed, but then nation after nation came, and now the Yishmaelim are there, and they're building their own domes on top to pray. And how could they be able to pray down there? How could they bow down and prostrate themselves on top of the most kadosh place in Judaism? How could it be? So he says, oh, it can't be. Rather, what took place? There's now a Retzuat of Tum'ah that's in the same place, and that's where they are. Meaning the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael is not in that little strip where they've taken over on the Har Habayit. Okay, so that's what Rav Avram Kluger says. Okay, now I was thinking that Nudati, very nice. We have this Retzuah that he's claiming is on Har Habayit that could answer up a lot of questions, but I was thinking maybe a little more simple. Maybe, this Retzuah, let's take this concept and relate it to a different Retzuah, to a different strip that's a lot more popular in the news, that's a lot more popular in the daily speech of the average Israeli. In Israel, there's only one piece of land that we refer to as Retzuah, and that's Retzuat Aza, which you say in English, the Gaza Strip. The only piece of land in Israel that we call a strip is the area of Gaza. Now the question is, why? Well, what's that opposite? I was thinking maybe if we take from our previous Dvar Torah, that what did we say Goshen was? Goshen was the Gvul of Mitzrayim. It was on the Gvul. It's where Eretz Canaan was nigash with Mitzrayim. It was that border between Egypt and Israel that was Goshen. Well, what's on the border over there? The border of what's the spot that goes from Israel down to Egypt till today? What's the area of that border? That's Retzuat Aza. That's the Gaza Strip. So maybe we can say that, okay, if a strip of land of Israel is leaving, so we don't have to say that it's Ha-Goshen, it's those cities wherever they were in Israel. Say it's the part that's the closest, that's the border of Israel, meaning the border of Israel, the Aza border, the Gaza border, that's the part of the Kedusha that followed Yaakov and followed the Jewish people down to Goshen. But then what happens? It leaves a void. And if it leaves a void, that void gets filled in with Tumah. That's how it works. Whenever you have a void, the Tumah comes in and fills it. And that's the Tumah of Retzuat Aza today, the Gaza Strip today, where all this terrorism and this barbarism and this znut and murder and most terrible things are coming out of Retzuat Gaza. How could it happen? How could this Gaza Strip have such Tumah? Because the Kedusha left when the Retzuah was moved to Goshen in Egypt. So B'ezrat Hashem, we pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu at Tefillah, that B'ezrat Hashem, may the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael return to every single one of our borders, and that way, through that Kedusha, we can come back to a place of peace, of Kedusha, of recognition of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. B'mehera b'yameinu. Amen.